Hey guys, how you doing? Ron here with Tech Tips to Go. In today's video, we're going to go over my last video and what that meant and kind of reading in between the lines and how this will affect Vechain when China accepted 224 new projects that dealt with blockchain technology. So let's get into the video. Before we get into the video, do me one favor, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you think about my new wallpaper background. I downloaded it off of Vechain Insider, and shout out to you guys. I know you guys are watching this from all over the world. Shout out to Spiros Strag from Greece. So it's actually pretty funny because my second last vacation was in Greece, and I loved every minute of Greece. I was there for 14 days. Went with my wife and another couple, and we explored all the islands, etc., etc. So anyway, shout out to Spiros. Also shout out to Vechain 101 Vechain V Lee, and also shout out to Yay Me. So anyways, I wanted to do this video based on my last video that I made, and there was a comment by Yay Me. So yeah, I mean, you're kind of reading my mind all about this, because before I even started to create the content for the video, I was just thinking, I'm like, wow, he already read my mind. That was my next video. And the comment that he made was this. Let's go over this comment. So yeah, me says, imagine if Vechain is the ether. So Ethereum, if you guys aren't into Ethereum, Ethereum has kind of gone from where I think where Vechain is. So Ethereum was, they started many years ago. You'd see their stock go from, pennies, slowly to the dollar, slowly to 10, and then they reached an all-time high about $1,400 USD. And as towards the end of December 2019, the new buzzword started to come in with decentralized finance, right, which is called DeFi, and that started becoming the new buzzword. DeFi, decentralized finance. And so in the comment, he mentions, Yami says, imagine if Vechain is the ether of Chinese blockchains, right? All the new Chinese blockchains building on top of it, it already processed 11 times more transactions than Ethereum. Like you said, why not just work together and build on top of Vechain? We need this. So in my other video, you look at Jim Breyer. So Jim Breyer is an angel investor. He's got Breyer Capital, billions worth of investments. And there was an article how Breyer Capital dropped Ethereum and only kept Vechain in their list of portfolios of blockchain technology companies. So that was, huge news, because, if you drop Ethereum for another company that kind of does the same thing in blockchain technologies, they were saying that, Vechain can do more faster transactions, or TPS, transactions per second, a lot faster than these companies that are out there. So that was huge news for us. But let's get into this. So, nothing wrong with Ethereum. I hold the most in terms of my bag that I hold majority of Vechain. Second is Ethereum. I like Ethereum in the long run just because of decentralized finance. And I think that, if they carve that niche, more regulations come with decentralized finance, like in terms of the IMF, right, coming in and put in some, rules and laws behind decentralized finance. I think Ethereum has a lot of potential, especially with staking. There's a staking calculator as well. So if you hold a minimum of 32 Ethereum, then you can start staking. So I'm trying to get to a point where I want to hold probably about 96 Ethereum. I'm almost there, but anyways, let's get into this comment, from Yami. So imagine if Vechain is the Ethereum of Chinese blockchains. So in my last video, I talked about 224. So it was this article here that I talked about, it was from Being Crypto, and it mentions China approves 224 new blockchain projects from big name brands. And what Yami mentioned is, imagine Vechain becomes the next Ethereum, and this is what I think is going to happen. So let's go over here. So you might think this is a little skeptical or a lot of hopium, but I just, if you connect all the dots, I think in the near future, this is what's going to happen. So you have Ethereum, right? So Ethereum is great in decentralized finance. This is DeFi Pulse, so decentralized finance Pulse. If you look at the chain that everyone is using, so Maker uses what chain? Ethereum. Synthetics, Ethereum. Compound, Ethereum. The list goes on and on and on. And out of all of these companies, only one of them uses Bitcoin, right? So that's great news for Ethereum. Now, China, like I mentioned in my other videos, China is trying to get big in two big things. The president of China is mandating artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. So let's read in between the lines of this article. China approves 224 new blockchain projects. What does that mean? From big name brands, right? And in the article, it talks about fintech. So that's financial tech. Now, do you think these financial companies, now let's look at this. So China's just announced third batch list of blockchain filings, 224 projects approved. Beijing projects account for nearly 40% of the applications, and 53 fintech blockchain, so financial tech blockchain projects, which is the largest category, account for a quarter of them. So if you look at this, there's let's say financial tech. So you're a bank or you're in financial technology, whether you're in payment systems or POS systems. Let's just take, for example, you're in point of sale systems. So you're in point of sale system doing digital transactions. You're approved out of the 224 blockchain projects approved. So what is your main goal? Your main goal is to collect every cent on that point of sale transaction so that company maintains revenue and it grows year by year. Do you think that these companies are going to switch shifts and go into project mode and say, well, I think we should build our own blockchain technology, right? No. They're not going to be building their own blockchain technology. That's the first thing, right? It's easier to hire, to do, and use what's already been made. Like I mentioned in my other video, don't reinvent the wheel. Use something that is working, trust, proven, with great referrals and references, and build upon that. So when Me mentioned that in the comments, and it's so true. It's like you look at decentralized finance. What are they doing? They're not building their own blockchain. Like, who wants to deal with, non-fungible tokens, mainnets, uptime, security, fee delegation, staking, etc., and then a whole support team and developments to constantly improve that mainnet, right? They don't want to do that. They want to deal with how do we make money off of each point of sale transaction and gain money on the interest, right? On the interest back from those customers. So that's point number one. They're not going to be building their own blockchain. They're going to be going to who? And this is why I think Vechain has, first they got the foot in the road early in terms of blockchain technologies, established great partnerships. So that's where I think it's going. They are going to be using Vechain, and this is in China, guys. So if you're another Asian company, Chinese company, who do you think they're going to? You think they're going to go to North America or the US and say, hey, I want to build my blockchain on Trump's blockchain? No, right? Nothing wrong with the IBMs that are building blockchain technologies, but I think IBM's really strong, or they have a private blockchain. But guys, you got to start building on public blockchains, if anything. And who's doing that well? Vechain. So that's point one. You've got 224 filings in China. Who are they going to work with? They're probably going to want to look for another Chinese or company that's in Asia that has credible resources. And who's that? Vechain, right? So point number two is good because, like I mentioned, I own a supply chain company, technology. And when we can't do something, or when we're working on a large project, what do? You outsource. You bring other consultants and contractors and firms to establish this project, see what resources you need, and do it in the efficient time, like an efficient time, so you're profitable. So you look at consulting firms, and you look at this. I googled this here. Top 5 consulting firms in the world. So by list, McKinsey's big. Boston Consulting Group is huge. Now you look down the list. Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I like Ernst & Young. They're in blockchain technologies too. But if you look at the top 5 companies, Deloitte and PwC. I think PwC does about 42 billion in revenue per year. And who is PwC working with? Who has invested into Vechain? PwC. Who else? Deloitte. There was an early, I think Deloitte dropped Ethereum to work with Vechain. So there was an article on Deloitte. So you look at those in the top 5 companies, and these 224 additional companies that have got approved for filing to be on the blockchain or to start the blockchain project, whether it's financial, food, traceability. What are they going to do? You think they're going to tackle this project on their own? No. What are they going to do? They're going to go to a consulting group, and that's exactly what Vechain and how they position their company. They built Toolchain, they built the mainnet, they work with strategic partners like PwC, Deloitte, dnvgl, and their team, professional services, go and do the work. So these companies that are doing financial techs, what are they going to do? They're going to hire a company that has experience in that niche. So if you look at this here, the industry and the niche. So PwC, you look at context as everything, explore. Where is Vechain located in terms of niches? Have they done aerospace and defense? No, I don't think so. Have they done automotive? Yes, automotive, BYD, right? BMW, Verify, right? Energy and utilities and resources, Shanghai Gas, just to name one. I'm pretty sure they have a lot more. Financial services, I think they're in there. Government and public, yes, they deal with a lot of governments. Hospitality, I could go on. I could name a whole bunch of hospitality resources. France, wine, Walmart and hospitality, food and hospitality. Insurance they're in. Pharmaceuticals, vaccine traceability, right? Shanghai has mandated them to start working on vaccine traceability. And I wouldn't even be surprised. I'm betting a lot of money that the government in China is just going to be like Vechain. You're working with Shanghai for the vaccine traceability. Let's adopt that and blow this up all over China. I'm betting my money on that. So it's not financial advice, but just with the relationships that they have, I think that's where it's going. Telecommunications, 5G. They're working with a large carrier in China. So if you look at this, I could go on and on about transportation and logistics. We all know Vechain's great and big in the supply chain, but they have all of these sectors covered, a lot of them, right? And like I mentioned, these 224 new filings, what are they going to do? The first step is, they're not going to go and say, well, we're going to handle this blockchain project ourselves and we're going to start working with our own internal team. No, the first thing they're going to do, hire a consulting group, PwC, whether it's Boston Group, probably, PwC or Deloitte. And like I mentioned, who has invested into Vechain, financially is PwC, dnvgl. So they probably start working with those two companies and not reinvent the wheel and kind of go on with building, the blockchain company. Whether, like I mentioned, whether they white label it or they just do exactly like, how H&M did, where they use my story and it said powered by Vechain, that's where it's going to come. And like I mentioned, guys, we're in the early stages of the internet, of blockchain technologies. Where we were in 1990 when the internet first came out and people were saying, who's going to do business through an email, right? Now, internet, we can't live without the internet. And that's where we're going with blockchain technology, right? I see it. I see a ton of articles, a lot of companies adopting blockchain, and other companies, they know they're going to have to adapt because they don't want to get left behind. So they're going to start adopting blockchain technology. So here's another, if you just Google top 5 consulting firms in the world, and it just goes to show you, McKinsey Company, Boston Group, Bain, Deloitte, number 4, PwC, 5. So anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about, guys. And that's just, a quarter of them are in fintech, financial technology. So I think this is where Vechain, has the upper edge on a lot of these companies. And like I mentioned, they're in China, the filings in China. Who has the biggest name in blockchain technologies in China? And I would say that's Vechain, and so on. So anyways, I wanted to keep this short, guys. Please subscribe, support the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. And also, comment below. Tell me where you're from. You know, I'm from Toronto. I'm from Canada. So whether you're from Asia, from China, from Greece, from the US, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.